When you're looking at a high-end NAS like this one, the first thing that trips most people up is the sheer amount of decision-making that comes before you even pull the plug. You're not just buying storage, you're buying a platform that's supposed to handle virtual machines, 4K or even 8K streams, and all-flash latency-sensitive workloads. That's a lot of responsibility, and the risk of overpaying for features you'll never touch is real. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and in the next few minutes I'm going to walk through what the hardware actually does for you in day-to-day operation, where its value really shows up, and who should be walking away. Let's start with the core of the machine, a 16-core, 32-thread AMD EPYC processor that can boost up to 3.3 GHz. On paper, that's massive, but the practical question is whether you'll ever tap that horsepower. In a typical small to medium business that runs a handful of Docker containers or hosts a few virtual desktops, the EPYC will feel like a powerhouse. You'll see near-instant VM spin-up, and the multi-tenant workloads won't start to compete for CPU cycles the way they would on a lower-tier Intel Xeon. For an enterprise data center that needs to feed multiple 8K video streams into a post-production pipeline, the CPU headroom is essential to keep latency low and avoid dropped frames. If your workloads are limited to simple file sharing or a single backup target, you may be paying for a racing engine you'll never drive. The next big piece is the storage configuration, 10 U.2 or U.3 NVMe bays, each capable of PCIe Gen 4x4 speeds, with the option to drop in economical SATA 6GB/S SSDs. That flexibility is where the value truly starts to appear. In a scenario where you need a hot tier of ultra-fast data, think high-frequency trading logs or live video editing, the Gen 4 NVMe drives will deliver sub-millisecond access times and sustained read/write rates that dwarf traditional SATA SSDs. You can also mix drives, using a few high-end NVMe for active projects while filling the remaining bays with more cost-effective SATA SSDs for archival data. The trade-off, however, is that you have to manage a more complex drive pool and ensure your RAID configuration matches the intended performance tier. If you're not comfortable juggling mixed media RAID groups, the learning curve can feel steep and you might not see the speed benefits you expected. Connectivity is another area that separates a just a NAS from a network-ready data center node. This unit ships with dual 25 GBE SFP28 ports plus a 2.5 GBE RJ45. For a team that streams multiple 4K video sources or runs heavy VM migrations across a 25 GBE backbone, those ports eliminate the bottleneck you'd hit with standard 1 GBE links. Moreover, the PCIe Gen 4 slots let you add 10, 25, 40, or even 100 GBE adapters, as well as QM2 cards for additional SSD lanes or fiber channel connectivity. In a real-world office where the network is already capped at 10 GBE, you'll need to upgrade the switches or use the 2.5 GBE as a fallback, which adds cost. For most SMBs that only need reliable file sync over a standard gigabit LAN, those high-speed ports end up being idle, and you're essentially paying a premium for future-proofing that may never be used. From a software perspective, QNAP's ecosystem brings a business-class backup center, ransomware protection, and cloud sync tools. The backup center isn't just a one-click snap to the cloud feature, it lets you schedule incremental snapshots of virtual machines, replicate them to a secondary storage node, and enforce retention policies that meet compliance standards. In practice, this means a small company can set up a robust disaster recovery plan without hiring a dedicated storage admin. The ransomware protection leverages immutable snapshots, so even if an attacker gets in, you can roll back to a clean point in minutes. That's real peace of mind if you handle sensitive client data or critical production assets. The downside is that those advanced features require you to spend time configuring policies, testing restores, and monitoring storage health. If you're looking for a plug-and-play device that just copies files, you'll find the QNAP interface a bit more involved than a consumer-grade NAS. Who should walk away? If you're a home user or a creative freelancer who mostly needs a few terabytes of storage for large video files and occasional file sharing, the cost of a dual processor, h1090 NVMe chassis is disproportionate. You'd be better off with a single bay or two bay NAS that supports SATA SSDs and a modest Intel Celeron or Ryzen processor. Also, if your organization lacks a network that can actually utilize 25 GBE or you have no plans to expand into high-throughput workloads, the high-speed ports become a sunk cost. Those buyers will likely benefit more from a more modest system that matches the bandwidth they actually have. On the other hand, the ideal buyer is a tech-savvy small to medium enterprise that already runs a virtualized environment, needs to juggle multiple high-resolution video streams, or is building a private cloud for internal services. Think of a post-production house that ingests raw 8K footage from multiple